Hey, welcome to The Feast Life, where we empower you, the modern homeschool mom, to create a life and homeschool you love. I'm Julie Ross, the creator of the award-winning curriculum A Gentle Feast, a homeschool veteran of over 20 years, and a certified Christian life coach. Charlotte Mason said, life should be all living, not a mere tedious passing of time. So on this show, we seek to savor the feast of life. So go get your favorite beverage and pull up a chair. You're welcome at this table. Okay, so what we've been talking about the past couple days is this gentle path, this different approach to education. So it is different than our traditional modern school systems. And Charlotte Mason paved the way for this different style of education, one that honors a child and respects them and values them as a person, and one that provides the nourishment that their minds actually do need to grow, which are ideas and beauty and truth, rather than trying to just stuff them with a bunch of information. So we talked about that the past couple of days. And so today we're going to be talking. So first we talked about what is the gentle path, right? How is it different? And then yesterday we talked about what the guardrails are for this path, which is the role of the teacher and the role of the student, because they are so very different in this approach. And you really need to get an idea of, okay, what am I doing and what is my child doing before you can start down the path. And today we're going to be talking about two things. The first is clearing the debris, making the actual path. And we do that through our habits. And then how we can fertilize and keep this path in this beautiful way of educating, growing in the lives of our children. So first, let's start off with clearing the debris, which is the power of habits. So think of it this way. If you're going to make a path in the woods, you have to clear out all the thorns, the bushes, sticks, all the things that are in the way of that path. And it's the same thing in our homeschool. So the way that we do that, Charlotte Mason says, is through the power of habit. So just like clearing a path in the forest is really hard at first, and you're sweaty and it's a lot of work, once you get that path going, it becomes easier then to keep going down that path, right? Now that the path is clear, it's smooth and easy. And Charlotte Mason says that's what habits allow us to do in our homeschool. She talks a lot about habits if you read her writings. She says 1/3 of the tools that we have for education are the habits that we're instilling in our home. And so much has been written in modern times, like in our past 10 years, about habits and the power it is to achieve the results that like adults want in their life. And I just laugh when I see people like talking about this, like it's a new concept. I'm like, okay, Charlotte Mason was talking about this like 100 years ago, just because she saw how valuable it is. So the things that you do repeatedly become habitual. The thoughts that you think repeatedly become habitual thoughts, and then the actions that you take on a regular basis become your habitual behaviors. Charlotte Mason said that it's those habits that shape a character. A character shapes a destiny. So the person that your child becomes is based on these habits. Now, in the traditional path, there is no focus on habits. Never in all my years of teacher training or being a public school teacher did anyone ever say, what kind of habits are you instilling in your classroom? Obviously, I wanted the children to learn like how to line up, how to raise your hand if you have something you'd like to say, right? How you put your stuff away when you come into the classroom in the morning and those kind of things. But there is so much more to habits than that. And so oftentimes when we think of habits, people think of like order and neatness and making everything has its place. And those are very important things to work on with your kids. But Charlotte Mason didn't stop there because it's those deeper habits that are going to shape a person. Now, we all love some order, right? And making sure our kids put their stuff away. And in one of her volumes, she gives an example of teaching Johnny how to shut the door before he goes outside, right? Those are all really great habits. But I love that she doesn't stop there. And she really does look at the whole child as a person. So she wants them to develop good mental habits of attention, habits of imagination, good physical habits, like how are they taking care of their body, right? Are they exercising? Are they getting a lot of time outdoors to play and grow their physical bodies as well? Their spiritual bodies, right? How are they growing in that respect too? So habits encompass a whole person, not just one part, not just academics and neatness and order, but the whole child as well. And so I wanted to start off with that because I think even in those of you who have been in a Charlotte Mason world for a while, we can get really focused on just kind of these simple practical habits, and we don't realize all the habits that we're building in our children on a regular basis. So on the traditional path, we're just focused on the results, like
Are you able to pass this test? Does your paper show that you demonstrate understanding of XYZ concept? We're not focused on the character that is being built by the things that we are repeatedly doing and the habits that we are repeatedly making. And oftentimes that is a detriment to a student who is part of that traditional path. So you can't see it here. The font's really little, but I'm going to read you a quote from this book. And again, I will put this in the email with my Amazon store that has links to all these books, so you don't need to stress about writing them all down. But The Self-Driven Child is the name of this book that I'm going to read from here. And he talks a lot about traditional schooling and what it's doing to teens, especially today. But in this book, he says, research over the last 4 decades has repeatedly demonstrated that incentives like sticker charts, consequences, and other forms of parental monitoring that are laid on children actually undermine internal motivation. What we're trying to do is to help kids to motivate themselves and to realize that they have something important to offer the world. We want to help them learn to run their own lives and seek to make them meaningful. The damage isn't done immediately, it happens over time. Studies show that rewards for things like grades or other achievements actually lower academic performance, crush creativity, and lead to bad behavior, like a willingness to cheat on a test or take performance-enhancing drugs. Significantly, these external motivators can reinforce the idea that someone other than the child is responsible for his life. Rewards can erode self-generated interest and lead to interest only in the reward itself. So then they're not interested in reading or creating something beautiful for the sake of learning and the sake that the joy that comes with that knowledge. They eventually become conditioned where the only thing that they care about is the actual reward itself. What's more, our clever brains see through external motivators. We'll devise ways to get the reward without actually doing the job or the assignment. This is why kids can get A's in courses they can hardly remember after a few months. And so what they're saying here is that just by focusing on these results and on these achievements, we're actually instilling bad habits so that kids don't actually want to learn for learning's sake. They want to learn only for the reward. The reward is the only thing they care about getting. And because that's all they care about getting, they'll go to any way to do it. Cheating, lying, those kind of taking the easy way out so they can just get the reward. Or like it says in there, which I think I was and a lot of other kids, I can get the A, but I'm not going to forget everything I just learned in a couple months. It's going to go. And so that's not what we want, right? We're on this different path. And so we want to create these habits that are actually going to make the person. This is what the result is. The person they become as a result of being in our homeschool. Charlotte Mason said, okay, so when you see like volume 1, volume whatever, that's all Charlotte Mason. So Charlotte Mason wrote 6 volumes of educational philosophy. So I just made it real simple there and quoted the volume, just in case anyone's wondering what that means. So she said, every day, every hour, the parents are either passively or actively forming those habits in their children upon which, more than anything else, future character and conduct depend. So habits are being formed in our children, and I would say in ourselves, either passively or actively. So we are either forming the habits that we want in those good habits, or human nature will take itself and we'll probably be having and reinforcing habits we don't actually want in our lives, okay? Does anyone else feel like this quote is really weighty? Like, what? Every day, every hour, I'm working on these habits? Oh my goodness, what am I gonna do? I can't do this. And so when I first read it, it was like, oh, like all this anxiety. And I'm like, okay, I don't think this is what it's supposed to be. I don't think this is what Charlotte Mason is saying. It is a very weighty task that our children's character and conduct is built by the habits that we are either passively or actively forming. But I would just like to encourage you all here that this is not a system. So remember, that's the traditional path. You put input in, you all get the same output. All the students should be exactly the same at the end. I do believe that Charlotte Mason and this style of learning is the best way for children to learn. It has radically changed me as a person. It has radically changed my family. And as you've heard from the stories of people this week that have been sharing, it's radically changed their families. but it's not a guarantee. It's not I do all these things and my child will turn out exactly as I want them to. And this will be the perfect, wonderful, most amazing human being because I did XYZ. And I see that a lot now that I'm like older and I've had kids and I talk to other homeschool parents who have graduated children and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe my child's doing XYZ because I did all these things and I read them all the books and we did all the hymns and we went on the nature walks and now they're choosing to do XYZ and I failed. And I'm like, no, you did what you were supposed to do, right? You were cultivating faithfulness, right? But your child's still a human. They still have free will, right? They can still make their own choices. And I've also seen so many children eventually come back to what they know and what they've learned and all those little seeds and things that were inside of them. They're not for waste, right? And we don't know the plan and journey our God has for our kids. So anyway, I just want to like put that all out there because it's not if I follow the Charlotte Mason philosophy to the T, I'm going to guarantee a perfect adult child. So we're all still human here. So take a deep breath. It's when I talk about habits, I feel like it's very nuanced and there's this really fine line that you have to walk and find for yourself here. Okay. So we're called to be working with our children alongside of them, not against them, to help them instill these habits of good. Charlotte Mason calls them the habits of the good life, which I just love. Because we do want that good life for them, right? But ultimately, habit training is not about control, coercion, pushing, pulling, making a lump of clay in our image. That's the traditional system. So I think with academics, we can see the difference in the Charlotte Mason philosophy. But when it comes to like habits and character, we're like, oh no, I got to still be the one to be all responsible and make sure this all happens. So I just want to make sure that I clarified that. So if this sounds overwhelming, I do want to read another quote from Charlotte Mason, which may help you breathe a little easier. It helped me anyway. If I can get my little bookmark to work. I shouldn't have used these little bookmarks. I use little bookmarks today and they are not good. Okay. She says, the mother devotes herself to the formation of one habit at a time, doing no more than keep watch over those already formed. If she's appalled by the thought of overmuch labor, let her limit the number of good habits she will lay out for herself to form. The mother who takes pains to endow her children with good habits secures for herself smooth and easy days, while she who lets their habits take care of themselves has a weary life of endless friction with the children. All day she's crying out, do this, and they do it not. Don't do that, and they do it. But you say, if habit is so powerful, whether to hinder or help the child, it is fatiguing to think of all the habits a mother must attend to. Is the mother never to be at ease? And that's the thing. We don't want to feel like we're constantly stressed and we're micromanaging our children. And, oh my gosh, you did that wrong. And now you're going to have this bad habit for life. Take a deep breath. Most of the habits your children are going to learn instinctively through what you're doing in your home and the atmosphere, right? It becomes a part of them, like we talked about yesterday. And just pick one habit at a time and think about yourself for a minute. Okay. If you've ever tried to start a new habit or a skill, anybody try to set a New Year's goal? I'm going to go to the gym 3 days a week, or I'm not going to eat sugar anymore. Anybody done anything like that? And then like come February, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. It is so hard. And it's true. Forming new neural pathways and trying new things and building new habits is a hard process. And I encourage you to look at that because when we can see in our own lives how hard it is to start to build new habits and new skills, we can have grace and patience for our children in the habits that we're building in them. It's not, okay, I have looked at your life and these are the 10 habits that I think you need to build right now. And those need to be done yesterday. And so I'm going to be on you and nag you every 5 seconds so that we can make sure that you build these habits. That isn't going to work. Okay. So let's do one thing at a time and be on your child's side. Like, we're building this habit together. Let's work on this. I'm here to keep you accountable and I'm here to help you. And eventually it's going to become automatic, just like all habits are, which is why habits are so powerful because we don't have to think about it. You probably didn't need to think about getting up and brushing your teeth this morning. It just happened. And so when we have these habits, then we don't have to think about them. It does make our life easier. But getting to that place is a process. And so we need to see it as that and to have grace and patience with our children as we're on that together and not be a taskmaster, Mary. Absolutely. Okay, so I want to just touch on a few habits here that I have found to be so powerful, and they're probably ones you're not thinking of. Because, like, we can think about making sure you put your schoolwork away at the end of the day, and making sure, like, you do your very best when you're doing copy work and your handwriting. But here's ones you might not have thought of that are so key and valuable on this new path, and that is the habit of outdoors. Charlotte Mason talks a lot, never be indoors when you rightly can be without, and how powerful being outside in nature is for children. It is not a let's do all of our schoolwork and do all the real learning so that we can go outside. Outside is where so much real learning takes place. Your children are observing in nature. And she talks about this in Home Education. If you want to read like the first couple chapters and know, what do I do with my kids outside? She talks about this. We're observing, we're classifying. Does this leaf look like that leaf? This kind of tree has this kind of bark, and that tree has that kind of bark. And that tree didn't look like that 2 months ago. And you're able to have these like rich discussions about things in nature. Child is doing so much scientific thinking that we don't even realize, even older children. And they're playing and they're getting their gross motor abilities out. And so much happens when children are outside playing with other children, and the social interpersonal skills that they're developing. So much happens outside, but we need to make it a habit and a priority. Or again, it just doesn't magically happen, especially in our day where that's not the norm for children anymore. And so I just want to encourage you, as you're planning out maybe next year or things you're going to do this summer, to think about how can we build this habit of an outdoor lifestyle for our family. Charlotte Mason said in volume 1, page 71, it is infinitely well worth the mother's while to take some pains every day to secure in the first place that her children spend hours daily amongst rural and natural objects, and in the second place to infuse into them, or rather to cherish in them, the love of investigation. If you want to encourage your child to be a lifelong learner when they're little, build this habit of wonder. This, she says, the love of investigation. Oh my goodness, I wonder, where did that bug come from? Was it on that tree? Do you think it eats that tree? I wonder what it eats. Your kids are naturally curious like this. They're going to ask questions. And here's the great thing. You don't need to know all the answers. Go, oh my goodness, I wondered that too. That's such a great question. And just let it sit. You don't need to be the fountainhead of all knowledge, but we're encouraging our children to wonder and find beauty in their daily outdoor life. And it seems like that's silly. That's a waste of time. We're like, that's something we could do if we have extra time. But no, this is the work that is going to help their brains. And so much research has come out. Yeah. Someone mentioned, like, I had Ginny from 1,000 Hours Outside in the podcast, and I just love, like, all the guests she has on her podcast just talk about this stuff all the time. And it's Charlie Mason knew all of this before all of y'all, that children need this. This is how their brains actually grow and develop. So build a habit of outdoor time and this, investigation and wondering. And then a habit of routines. How is the flow of your day? I talked about this a little bit yesterday with the timetables and Charlotte Mason's concept of short lessons and how to have your schedule for your day. This isn't like a rigid bell schedule. We must do it this at 10 o'clock. And oh my goodness, it's now 10:05 and we're supposed to be doing this at 10 and like that is not what I'm talking about here. Routines and rhythms have a flow to them. They change and they evolve, but they're so important to have because that's how habits are built, right? It's by, again, like those of you who like make your bed every morning, right? I'm sure you have your little, like, you get out of bed, you turn around, you do the, it has become a habit because you don't even think about it. But when at first you're trying to do it, right, you had to have the routine. You had to be doing it on a regular basis to make it happen.
Today's episode is brought to you by A Gentle Feast. A Gentle Feast offers a complete living books curriculum, an award-winning early reading program, and more tools to equip you to apply Charlotte Mason's timeless philosophy into your modern homeschool. Go to agentlefeast.com to check it out. Smooth and easy days are closer than you think.
So, in the book, For the Children's Sake, if you have not read this book and you're just starting off with Charlotte Mason, this is the must-have book. This is the book that when I was a public school teacher, my church library had this book sitting on a shelf. I think it was very divinely placed. And I saw the book and I went, oh, this book's about education. This is interesting. I think I'll take it home and read it. And y'all, I stayed up till 2 a.m. reading this entire thing and just weeping because it gave such a beautiful picture of this gentle path that I've been teaching you about this week. And I knew I couldn't give the kids in my public school classroom this style of learning because of our tests and our requirements and all the paperwork I had to do and everything. And it broke my heart because in my soul, I knew this is how children learn best. And so this book is fantastic. So I want to make sure during our time together, I don't neglect to mention this one. But this is what she has to say. Bad habits make slaves of those who have them, but good habits are like tracks along which our usual behavior runs. Routines form habits. So if you want to make a habit in your homeschool, make a routine. Do it. She says, take the area of human relationships. Routines do not make the relationship, but they are the frame upon which we can hang our experiences. Some families do not have a routine of eating meals together anymore. Any time goes for snacking. People are rushing about 1,000 activities, any one of which could be good. But what is the sum total? Without the priority of a framework, nothing much happens. Few conversations, little times of togetherness. And a family decides to read a book whenever there is time. There is invariably no time. It is essential to have these basic routines. Children love routines. It frees their attention for the activity at hand. This is so good. And it's so true. And research has shown this too. Children like routines because then they're not always thinking about what comes next. Or, oh, yesterday we did that, but now I don't know what's going to happen. And it creates all this confusion in a child's mind, actually creates a lot of stress. They like routines. That's why I like preschoolers ask you to read the same book every night for weeks, right? They like knowing what's going to happen. That makes them feel good. It makes them feel confident. And so having these routines and your rhythms in your day. Okay, first we do this. Okay, now we're going to go do this. Okay, before lunch we do this. After lunch we do that. Like it doesn't happen the same every day, but just doing it enough consistently helps free up a child's attention and make sure that it actually happens, which is so key. All right, the next habit is the habit of solitude. And I talked a little bit about this the other day, how our children need time of solitude. So this is from the Parents Review, the magazine that Charlotte Mason edited. The author is E. Parrish, and the article is called Imagination as a Powerful Factor in a Balanced Mind. All right, and this is what he says. Children need two things, solitude and independence. Children must have these. Miss Mason devised the timetables which cover such reasonable hours as to leave time for this, but parents often very culpable in thinking that their child needs tango. Anybody here kids take tango lessons? I thought that was hilarious. Anyway, parents are often culpable in thinking that tango or some other new thing must be learned as well. And the much needed time for solitude is used for plans which necessitate hurried journeys, always in the company of a responsible person who feels it's her duty to talk in an instructive way. And the thinking time, the growing time, the time in which the mind is to find food is diminished. The child, listen to this, becomes restless, tiresome, irritable, disobedient, everything that a child who is reputed to be difficult can be. The parents marvel and say, but we're giving him the best education possible. We're neglecting no opportunities. Kind, generous parents, you are giving your child every opportunity but one. That is self-development. By your generous care, you are safeguarding him from his own mind, ever relying upon himself in any way. The child who at first found interference irksome, listen to this, later depends on it and is unable to work without constant prodding. I believe this is the prime reason of the oft-repeated lament of teachers and professors. Little ones are so eager to learn, but older children are less keen, and adults are boring and lethargic. What is that? Like, when I read that first, I was like, oh my goodness, wow. And it's so from a good heart. I was filling our days with so much stuff and our weeks, and we're always going from one thing to another that my kids just never had time. And I think about back to my childhood. One of the things I love to do, I was telling one of my kids this actually a couple of days ago, when I was a little girl, and the neighbor kids even would try to get me to come play, and I just really wanted to be alone a lot of the time. And we had a little garden in the backyard with a bench, and I would just sit on it, and I would write songs, and I would write poetry, and I would read books for hours, right? And I had that like slow growing time to myself. Now, going off and playing with my friends would have been a great thing to do too. That's just my personality there. But Allowing your child to not be so overscheduled is so important because their brains need this solitude and independence. So you're not always on top of them for everything, giving them some independence to do the work, to let these ideas soak into their minds. And it's really, truly amazing what happens when we give children that freedom there. Okay, so what is the most important habit? There's a lot of really important ones, but this is what I think is the most important habit. I think the most important habit is love. How are we building love into our days for our kids and for each other in our families? Because ultimately, this is what is most important. In the book, same book, For the Children's Sake, she says, if we follow the New Testament teaching that leadership means serving other people, the child is respected, his needs and abilities are considered, and he is lifted up. We are to lead with love. In my experience, children obey best when their lives are fully satisfied in the way Charlotte Mason advocated. If their minds are interested, if they're learning new skills, if they have loving relationships, if creativity is encouraged, if they go find beauty in nature, art, and music, if they spend hours in free play. Children learn to climb, swim, ride, canoe, ski, skate, while these children will be well on their way to having their sinful natures put in the back seat. Sinful nature expands like a malignancy at any age, with loneliness, mental poverty, boredom, passivity, hunger, tiredness, and deprivation of daily contact, with the rich source material of goodness, the Word of God. When our childs have this path and their minds are being fed what they actually need, that nourishment, and they're being challenged and they're outside and they're looking at beautiful art and they're looking at beautiful music, right? A lot of these things take care of themselves. But we're able to have that relationship and we're able to show them that love and that grace. And we're not so, you got to learn this habit and you got to learn this habit right now and getting fearful and controlling. We're able to just be with them and love them as they are. Because like our God, it says, leads us to repentance by his loving kindness, right? We can help shape our children's habits the most when they know that we love them and that we care about them. Yes, all children absolutely need this, but I wanted to encourage you with that because I can often that habit training becomes very systematized, mechanical, a lot of fear and pressure based. And that's not how Charlotte Mason approached it at all. It's in the context of all these beautiful, rich, loving, beautiful ideas. All right, so here are some questions to consider when you're thinking through habits. Am I fostering good habits in my own life? So by you learning new habits, by you learning new skills, you model for your children how to build good habits. Look into yourself first before this. Let me tell you all the 10 things that you're doing wrong and we need to work on this year, okay? Look at yourself, start building new habits and talking through it with your kids and modeling for that. I have seen that to be the most powerful way to shape their character. Does my homeschool routine make good habits easy? If you don't have a routine, I highly encourage you to make one and try it. And if it doesn't work, start another one, but build these practices that we are doing, especially having some bookends to your day. How do you start your school day and how do you end it? And then in the middle, you can start to figure that out. But if you at least start with those two and build those habits, it's really going to make your day a lot easier. And then the one habit that would bring more ease to your homeschool days. So again, you don't have to do it all. Like they say, like people start, like they make New Year's resolutions and then they don't keep them. It's because they're trying to do 15 things. Like this year, I'm going to do these 10 goals. And it's impossible, right? For us as adults to work on that many things at one time. What's so cool now in the book Atomic Habits, like modern research has shown that the cool thing about habits is what they call the compounding effect or the snowball effect of habits. When you build one good habit in one area of your life, like I'm going to wake up in the morning 30 minutes earlier and I'm going to have a devotional time. When you build that habit, then other habits in your life start to form. Oh, now I don't leave dirty dishes in the sink. Oh, okay. Now I take the stairs when I go places. And now I make healthier food choices. Like the more habits of the good life, like Charlotte Mason said, you start to build, it creates this snowball effect and makes the other ones easier. I hope this has been encouraging and helpful and giving you some tools, maybe some food for thought if you're completely new to this. I'll send you the free class if you want to dive into Charlotte Mason deeper. If you've been in the circles for a while, I hope it has given you some encouragement for the remainder of the school year, right? It's so easy to get in the weeds and the details and the things that are hard and the things that we didn't do, and we lose sight of the big picture of like, why am I doing it this way? And just being able to hear everyone's stories have been so encouraging, and being able to, for me, even just my kids are laughing because I look like I'm in college, like my whole dining room table has been covered in books like all week long. And just for me, even just to go back and read Charlotte Mason's words and just go, yes, this is why I've chosen this path. This is why this style of education is so important. And I hope that has offered you some food for thought and some encouragement this week as well. So thank you, everyone.
Hey, thanks for listening to today's episode. Let's quickly recap some of the key takeaways. Number 1, habits are crucial in homeschooling. They act as a tool that shapes a child's character and destiny. Focus on building habits that nurture a love of learning and personal growth. Number 2, time outdoors needs to be a habit. Encouraging outdoor time is an integral part of learning. Nature offers endless opportunities for observation, classification, and scientific thinking, contributing to the overall development of a child. Number 3, routines. Establishing routines and rhythms provides a framework for children, reducing their stress and creating a predictable flow. Consistent routines help in building good habits effortlessly. Number 4, remember the importance of the habit of solitude. You need to allow time for solitude and independence. Overscheduling can actually hinder a child's ability to think and grow independently. Children need quiet time to reflect and develop their own thoughts. And last but not least, the habit of love. This is the most important habit. Creating a loving and supporting environment where children feel valued and understood actually helps them learn better. Show love and care in daily interactions to foster a positive and nurturing, life-giving home atmosphere. Thanks for listening. Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this episode, please heart it down below and make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. Leave a comment and let me know what you learned in today's episode. I'd love to hear from you.